Jane Brecken. This is part 2 of Who's Running My Business. I'm being joined by Dr. Rosie Kuhn, presenter of the summer workshop. Welcome, Dr. Rosie.
Thanks, Jane. It's nice to be here again.
I'm glad you're here. So, Rosie, I'd like to just start out talking about your book, Dilemmas of Being in Business. And my first question around this book is, what are those universal dilemmas that everyone has regarding their work life or their business life?
It's a great question. So, number one, we are in business for a number of reasons. One is we want to be successful, and business usually means profit. And those are basically the two things that we want. Most of us don't have much of an idea of how to run a business. We might even have gone through an MBA program and still don't have an idea of how to run a business or how to manage a business. And it takes direct experience, and time and time again to actually learn how to do this effectively. So the dilemma is, I want to be successful and I don't know how to do that. So I'll just try this, or so-and-so says to do this, and so I'll do that. Or research says this is the way to do it, so I'll do that. But we rarely align those thinkings and the logical and the rationals with our own intention for fulfillment. So fulfillment in terms of success and profit, but also that personal fulfillment that we get from doing what we're inspired to do. So the dilemma is, I want to be successful, so I have to do this. But by doing this, I'm not attending to this over here. So quite often, a challenge, for instance, is a life-work balance. And so we want the business we want, or we want to work in the business that we want. And that may mean I'm working too much or spending too many hours in the work field and not enough time in my home or in the balance of health and well-being. So that is in itself a major dilemma. But it's like, so how do I do that? How do I want profit and success and prestige, perhaps, or power, or more influence, and attend to this part over here that's really needs balance, perhaps harmony, connection with family and friends, with self?
Oh, interesting. So my next question is around that word intention. How important is knowing your intention or being intentional to create that balance that we all strive for?
Mm-hmm. It's the most important word. In a sense, if someone says to me, Rosie, I want to start a new business, I'll say, so what? The first question is, what is it you're wanting out of having this business? What's the intention for having this business or creating this business? So it's like, what is my intention? Well, here's a gap in services. Here's a place that's not being met in the world, and I think I have what it takes to do that. It's like, excellent. What's that like inside you when you imagine that? And they go, it's fun and it's exciting, and I get to touch people all over the world with this. Excellent. Okay. And now we can get to the more business plan oriented. How do you want to do that? What's that look like for you? What's the culture that you will be creating of individuals who will be working for you and with you? Okay. So
I get it.
Quite often people will say, well, here's what it says. Here's the checkoff list for the business plan. Here's how to create a business plan. Here's what you need to check off. It's like, I get that. But what is it that you're wanting specifically in your business that's related to this checkoff list, but will make it even more personal for you and specific? So for instance, one of my clients started a business last year, and he hired a person off the bat, just like, here's a guy who can do the graphic design for me. It's like, okay, great. When he talked about this guy, the fellow was very talented, but his social skills and his ability to connect within the culture that my client is establishing didn't fit. It wasn't a good fit. So inevitably, this fellow disappeared because he didn't fit into the culture. So I asked my client, what's the culture that you want to establish with the people you work with? What kind of people do you want working for you. And of course, you want talented people who are experts in the field. And what's the quality of the experience you want those people to bring, and a sense of connection, ability to engage and relate with clients that they're serving. So these are all kinds of elements that seem sort of like we don't even think about that when we're hiring people or establishing business relationships with people, or the way that we set up our websites. All of it is founded on who's making the decision.
Right.
Who's making
right.
who's making the decisions within my business?
Right. Right. And as these people are making decisions, it seems like there's some real points of vulnerability. And I know you use that word often. What separates those of us who are willing to be vulnerable and those that aren't? And how important is that to stay true to your intentions? That
That's
ability to be vulnerable.
Well, again, as I was saying in the last video, is there's always something at stake when we're making any choices, whether it's what's for dinner or what time I'm going to get home or what lane of traffic I'm going to be in. There's something at stake. And in business, it can be critical in terms of relationships with finances, with partners, business partners, with personal partners, home and family. So there's always this place of vulnerability. And when we come from our heart, when we come from this place of truth, we're more likely to fulfill all of those places in a way that feels good and, in a sense, minimize vulnerability. We operate in the sense the opposite way, in saying, here's what statistics say, here's what research says, so just follow that. And quite often in business programs that says hire us and we'll help you market and make you very successful, they say follow these plans and are these checklists again. And more often than not, it isn't, again, person-based and whole-based and fulfillment based. It's get the job done and be strategic about that. This Who's Running My Business workshop is about being strategic, being fulfilled, being successful financially and in every other way, and be mindful of how the decisions are being made that you're making. And one more element is, one of my clients he's been in recovery for a number of years, and in his business he chose to hire somebody because that person was also in recovery, and he wanted to be supportive and helpful. And she was masterful. The person that he hired was masterful in her position. However, because of the stress and strains in this new position for her, she relapsed, and he had to fire her. So here he was acting in the best interest of his business and saying, she's very good at what she does, we need her and her skills. However, here's a piece of information that I didn't take into consideration as I had. So it's like, there's no right or wrong here. It's just how and who is making that decision. How are we making those decisions? How are we choosing to choose what we choose?
Sounds pretty important question to ask, and one that seems like it'd be easy to do, but not necessarily easy to do. So many choice points, so many ways we choose. Thanks, Rosie. We will visit again, and we'll do another interview, and I look forward to that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jane. See you then.
Bye-bye.